Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York jazz trombonist Mariel Bildsten. We talked to her in late January 2021 about her latest 2020 CD, Backbone. She opened up about her life in music and COVID. She works as a side woman in New York, playing mostly in jazz big bands and small groups, along with world and Caribbean music, classical, funk, R&B, Latin, and wedding bands. She has been trained and has played with the best in the business all over the globe. Get to know her. Dig this interview. Thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
So, talk to me a little bit about Backbone. You have an album that came out during a very strange year on Earth, a pandemic. What were your feelings? What were your thoughts on the kind of coming out during that time and just all of that?
So we recorded it actually a year. Actually, let me think. When did we record it? We recorded it in January of 2019. So about a year and a half later, I actually ended up releasing the album. But in terms of, in terms of releasing it during the pandemic, it felt like people need things to listen to. People need new music to sort of keep their spirits up. It's a very sort of dark time these days. So anything that I could do to contribute to that, I was really happy to. But regardless, I was just trying to get the music out as soon as possible and not sit on it too long as well. So it's not a pandemic album, even though it was released during the pandemic.
So from a creative standpoint, what were you going for? What do you hope the listener gets from this experience?
So the way that I approach arranging and putting together songs is sort of my personal expression of doing a lot of research and sort of synthesizing a bunch of different influences that I have. So this is my sort of expression, is to really get into the melody of the song and to really explore that with the band. Arrange it in such a way where everyone can really be themselves within the framework of whatever song we've chosen. And so with this album, it's just sort of a snapshot in time of what's the music that I'm loving right now, what are my influences. I think it's a real expression of my musicianship at that time. You know, I try not to think about it much more deeper than that, because it was hard to just not do anything. At the time, it was just, I really am loving these melodies and I would like to play them with these people, and how can I set that up in a way that feels meaningful and different and, you know, unique to me and unique to the band members as well.
So you're in New York. Talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised and kind of how jazz became your life.
Yeah, sure. So I was raised in Santa Barbara, California on the West Coast. I come from parents, my dad's an astrophysicist and my mom's an architect. So music wasn't necessarily part of our, home life. However, my dad really likes like old school rock and stuff like that. So that was sort of my upbringing, was listening to that music. And when I started playing trombone when I was 10, and in middle school there was a jazz program, at the school, and so it was just school band. And then I was made aware of this program at Santa Barbara City College that was pretty amazing, because it was a city college, but anyone of any age could go to these classes if you signed up for it. So I started going to that. They had a summer jazz program and then stuff during the year as well. So started going there, and that was amazing, because I was just around people who were really, college-level musicians, and I was 12, 13. So that was a really special experience that was very inspiring to me. And then I really fell in love with the music, and then when I got to New York, I think I fell in love with it even more. This is such a sort of mecca and center of the jazz scene, and so I was able to study with really incredible teachers and be around amazing musicians and the people who I've looked up to and listened to for a long time. So that really sort of solidified things for me. And in terms of falling in love with the music as well, it really made me fall in love with swing music specifically. I was always more intrigued with, I don't know what you call it, but like more modern jazz styles earlier in life. And then when I came to New York, I realized, oh wow, like people are dancing to this music, people are partying to this music. And so it really made it feel much more relevant for my life. And I really fell in love with Duke Ellington's music and Mary Lou Williams' music and Mariel Bildsten and people like that, Count Basie. So that was really a huge, being in New York, just sort of soaking up all of that music was really a turning point for me as well, just in terms of my understanding of my playment.
What was the first live show that you ever saw that really made you think, man, that's something I'd like to do?
That's a good question. I saw Sonny Rollins. He came to Santa Barbara, and I must have been a freshman in high school. My dad and I went, and he just played for maybe 3 hours with his band, and it was incredible. So that was definitely a big show for me. Yeah, and then when I got to New York, the first show, I had just moved to New York. I was so excited. I was 18, and I saw Tom Harrell, the trumpet player, play at the Village Vanguard. That was pretty extraordinary as well. So I don't know. There's been a lot of shows. I've been able to hear a lot of my heroes play, but those kind of stick out to me as when I was really young and really excited to hear. I don't know. The excitement doesn't change, but sort of those are a couple of the first shows that really stuck out to me for sure.
So what do you like the best about being a musician?
Good question. There's a lot that I love about it. What I really love is getting to interact with other musicians, and I think the sense of community is something that's been really special to me. I think you're able to, there's a connection that you get to make with people when you play music, and a connection that you get to have with your audience when you play music that has been really special for me. I'm very interested in how humans tick, and so it's been really fun for me to see how music affects people's moods and how it sort of gets people in or out of the night. And so that's been a really special thing. And I think the other thing that I love about being a musician is having access to mentors. I think in any field of work, it's really important to have mentors, but it feels this sort of multi-generational thing that we've got in the jazz scene, I think is particularly special and really essential for the art form to move forward. And so I think that's something that I really appreciate is the need and the availability of mentorship within the jazz scene.
What do you hope we all collectively realize about the absence of live music? What we realize when we come back?
I think there'll be a huge amount of appreciation for it. I don't think, as time goes on and trends change and people's interests change, and I wouldn't say that jazz is now popular music, but I hope that it's appreciated even more than it was before, both by audiences and musician to musician. When we were really busy, sometimes it got really exhausting, and so just to not forget and take for granted that what we're able to do is actually really, really special, because it has been sort of taken away during this time. So I think audiences will be really eager to hear music, and I'm excited to just bring more of myself to the table. And I've had a little bit of time to sort of settle into that during the pandemic and have some time for some perspective. So I'm excited to sort of bring that energy and sort of sense of service back to the music rather than just sort of going along or being so busy that you don't appreciate the little moments. So I think that'll be a change. I hope that we can carry that for a long time. And I think musicians have been really working hard during the pandemic and learning a lot of new things. And so I'm just excited to hear everyone play. And yeah, I don't think we'll take it for granted again. And I hope audiences feel the same way.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one that's living your life. Who do you think you are?
Oh, that's a good question. I should think about that more. I think what I'm doing is providing a perspective I think I'm a very lyrical player, and that I really focus on melodies, and that's what's important to me. And that when I put together music and when I put bands together, that's my interest, is that. It's not being a very athletic soloist or anything like that. It's just sort of how can we play these songs the most beautifully. So when I think of my goal, it's how can I present that both to my band members and communicate that well, and as the audience. I think that's an important thing, and something that, maybe is missing from music sometimes, especially as jazz gets more and more modern. And now, of course, there's exceptions to that. But what's important to me is playing beautiful songs and that make people feel something. That's my goal, and that's what I hope I'm doing. And, as time goes on, hopefully I'll get better and better at it. But this is sort of the start of that journey for me. I hope that makes sense. Okay,
yeah, cool. There's no right or wrong answer with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. Thanks for getting back. I really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. No, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Mariel for her time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.